Now, mention the names Carnegie and Rockefeller, and the word philanthropy comes to mind. Rich Americans, well, they've got a proud history of charitable giving. The latest in a long line are, of course, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. But they're not alone. To date, more than 100 other billionaires have signed up to their giving pledge. Earlier this year, the likes of Richard Branson and Malaysia's Vincent Tan also put their billions on the line. It's well-intentioned giving, but is that enough? With me now is Jacob Lief, the co-founder of the education charity Ubuntu, Roy Head, CEO of Development Media International, and James Caan, an entrepreneur and former dragon from Dragon's Den, a program which puts business ideas to the test. Before we start, let's just take a look at James in action.
Looking for a £170,000 investment in their takeaway food business, delivering traditional British favourites to consumers' doors.
Instead of pizzas, curries and noodles, it's cottage pie, lamb casserole and bread and butter pudding.
James Caan liked the cuisine, but found the takeout setup costs far less to his taste.
I've run a retail business in food, and for £40,000 I could never open an outlet. I don't know where you're opening this shop, but you know, even in Bombay that would be a challenge.
Deborah.
Well, let's get on with this. I mean, even the other dragons were shocked. Now, are you as unkind to the kind of charities you deal with as you were with that poor
George,
hapless
they
people?
say I'm the nicest dragon. I'm the really kind one.
Listen, seriously though, I mean, do you need to bring that kind of rigour if you are, as you are, a rich person who's interested in philanthropy?
I don't think it's about rigour, George. I think it's about responsibility. I think when you are somebody who's, you know, made his money and you've had to work hard for it, I think you have to take the same responsible attitude when you're giving. And it's about finding organisations that you trust, that had good governance, good controls, that are transparent, that can show the entrepreneur the principle of value for money. Because everybody wants to know that for every pound of my hard-earned money that I donate, how much of that pound actually gets to the cause that you're promoting. So I think, you know, you showed on your clip the likes of Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates is one of the most recognised individuals on the planet who absolutely believes in value for money giving.
Now, you say you want, you know, every dollar, every pound that you give to make something. Now, Jacob, if I'm not mistaken, Ubuntu, the organisation that you deal with, I mean, you're actually suggesting something more, that for every dollar or pound or South African rand that is given, you have a sort of multiplying effect.
That's correct. I think we understand that raising a child takes time. Too often, philanthropists want us to create miracles in a 12-month grant cycle, and you can't raise a child in 12 months. And that's something I think we all know deep down in our own hearts with our own children, but when we think of the other, it changes a bit. Too often I'm asked the question, well, how can I reach more children for less money? And we believe that's the wrong question to be asking. Rather, what does it take to actually change a child's life?
Yeah, but what you're actually saying, I mean, when you promote your organisation, is give us a dollar and do you know what, the returns are $8 or something you
Sure.
get. How do you make that kind of calculation? I can see how someone like James could make it in a business. I mean, you see it, but, you know, in the profit line, but how do you make that calculation?
Sure, we work with children from the cradle straight through to career. So we follow these children from the age of 0 straight through. We then take a child who graduates our program, graduates from university, enters a job market, looks at what that child is earning, what they're contributing back to society, and then compare it to a child who's in our community, not in our program, and what they actually drain from society. And the differences are remarkable. We have an incredibly expensive model in the sense that it costs a lot to change a child's life, upwards of £3,000 per child in South Africa. But we believe and we've proven that it costs more not to make that investment than to invest in a child that way.
And Roy Head, what's interesting about your work is that actually it's not really necessarily so much about how much people give. It's about information, isn't it? So just give us a brief example of the kind of work you do.
Well, what we do is we do mass media campaigns, which is designed to improve people's knowledge and change their behaviours. And these are life-saving behaviours, such as giving a child food and water when it's got diarrhoea or using a mosquito net. And we calculate that it costs about $5 to add a year of healthy life to a child. So actually we're at the cheapest end, almost the opposite end of the spectrum from Jacob. You know, in terms of the amount of lives saved per dollar, you know, that's how we market ourselves to philanthropists. And I think that, you know, philanthropists have to make a choice. You know, sometimes they will be attracted by really investing in, you know, in depth in a child, just as Jacob's Foundation does, as somebody who puts money in a tin, or, you know, people have a certain amount of generosity to give over their lives, so they may, you know, adopt a child. That may be what they do with their lives. On the other hand, they may want to, you know, give $1,000 and give the greatest good for the greatest number.
And James, if I'm not missing, you two have a relationship, don't you?
Yes.
Yes. Now, I would argue, many people would argue, that actually the kind of thing that Jacob's organisation is doing is something the South African government should be doing. What on earth is a rich man from Britain doing something that South African taxpayers ought to be dealing with? I mean, we're talking about education here.
We are, and I think it's not about whose responsibilities in my eyes. I think as an individual, we all have a responsibility to the global community that we are now living in. And I think entrepreneurs like me do not think from a parochial perspective. You know, I want to be able to have the opportunity of giving something back. And I believe that Jacob has as a product that he's very passionate about, where he genuinely is making a difference. And I think if you're looking to make a difference to somebody's life, to me, does it really matter if that life is in South Africa, India, Pakistan, England? I don't think it matters. I think what matters is, are you making enough of a difference? And I think Ubuntu, in what it does in Africa, is absolutely making a difference.
And Jacob, OK, so perhaps, let's believe James might be an exception. Do you get situations where these rich people, actually they're interested in a kind of vanity project, they want their name all over it?
We do, and we deal with that.
But
the truth is that the majority of our supporters are more concerned with seeing a return on their investment. And we have to quantify that, and if we can show that, our investments increase. OK,
I just want to come back quickly to you, Roy. Is there a danger that the rich guys want to kind of reinvent the wheel? They want to set up their own projects where there are lots of people doing good work already?
I think there is that danger, and I think I was at a recent philanthropy conference in California, and they're really taking this whole philanthropy business to an extreme now. They're looking for the most cost-effective ways, and I think any philanthropist has to balance, you know, risk, as in investing in something new, and such as us. So we were utterly dependent upon philanthropists for our funding. We came up with a way that we thought was the most cost-effective way of saving children's lives, but it didn't fit into the established donors' way of looking at things. So it was the Wellcome Trust and the founders of the Lonely Planet travel series that actually invested in us.
We're going to have to leave there. Roy Head, Jacob Lief, James Caan.
Thank you, George.
Thank you all for being with us.